There was like 3 knocks, real loud knocks, and see, after I heard that, I came back home also.
So he was knocking over in these woods in this tree line across from the road here.
Standing there washing dishes, and I heard this long hoop.
You could tell it was a primate. You can tell it was a loud vocalization.
That sounded like heavy feet, you know.
There's some things around here that we don't know, and it's unexplainable.
The unexplainable. Something that's hard to believe. Kind of like me asking you to believe I'm not sucking in my gut right now. We're going to lay before you 5 different stories. Stories that are unexplainable. Stories that are hard to believe. And yet they're describing a creature that has been spoken about for 1,000 years. Like he's always been here. Yet there's no hard evidence to show he even exists. Yes, I'm talking about tall man, long man, Este Capko. Some people call him Bigfoot or Sasquatch. But we here on the Muscogee Nation have our own stories, and we're going to show you 5 of them. And we're going to ask you to be a judge, to be the jury. We're going to ask you to decide, are these people telling the truth? Are these people believable? Well, that's up to you to decide. That's not my job, that's your job. So we're going to leave it up to you. Sit back and watch the stories, and then you decide. And I can't wait to hear the verdict. I know what I heard, and I know they know what they heard, what they saw, and what they smelled. So all I can say now is, Mado.
It was several years ago that we were out hunting during deer season. It had to be around October. And we set up some ground blinds while we were hunting. I was on the south end and Sissy was on the north end. We was about 40 yards apart. And as we were waiting, it was in the mid-morning. And as we were waiting, looking around out of the blind, I noticed something to my south end of the timber line. I seen something gradually coming through the trees, and it looked very tall. I think it had to be at least 7.5 to 8 foot tall. All I could see was a head part. It had to be about this tall up here. At least, that tall. And I looked back to Sissy, and I seen her looking out the blind, but I didn't know if she'd seen anything. And I never mentioned it to her. I never said a word till we got back home later that afternoon. And when she asked me why am I acting strange, and I told her, I asked her if she'd seen anything like after it, and she replied yes. And as we started talking more and more, and she seen the same thing I did.
I mainly heard it, heard something, that sounded like heavy feet, running or walking, something heavy.
A few months later, I went out there by myself, and I have it on my phone somewhere. I don't know which phone it was. I had several phones in between that time. I took a picture of one, and I seen something come looking on the side of a tree. And because as I was hunting, there was a deer that I was tracking, and it looked one direction, then it just took off running. So I didn't know what it was. But I took a picture, and as soon as I took one picture, I took another one, and on the second picture there was nothing on looking behind a tree. But as I waited, you could hear something taking long strides, these big old steps, just kind of like thump, thump. And after I heard that, I came back home, and I didn't go hunting for the rest of the deer season until the following year. Years before that, me and my younger brother was out hunting, And I usually hunt on the south end of our property to spook anything up, so I go towards my brother, and my brother's hunting on the north end. And I think it's about 10 or 10:30 that morning when I noticed a smell that it either smelled like a real bad skunk or almost like the way a dog rolls into a water or mud, where you can smell that odor. And as soon as we got through hunting, we came back to my mom's house, and I asked him if he smelled anything. He said, sure. I said, yeah, I did. It was about the same time that I smelled that odor also. Okay, I'm my wife, Christy, had her ground blind over here. And I had mine back over here, it's about 40 yards away from her. And the direction that we seen, what I seen, my wife heard, back over here to the south. And I seen it for a good, maybe about 20 seconds. There was like 3 knocks, real loud knocks. And see, after I heard that, I came back home also. And I've told some of my relatives and friends of what I saw and what we've heard, and they tend not to believe it. But as I told them, until you see it or hear it, you make a believer out of you.
I'm Becky Barnett, and I live in Hannah, about quarter of a mile, half a mile out of town, off the road. One morning I was washing dishes. This was about 9 o'clock in the morning. I was washing dishes, and my window, my sink faces the woods. There's woods behind us. So I was standing there washing dishes, and I heard this long hoop, a long hoop. And I stopped and I thought, what is that? So I ran outside and stood on the porch a little bit, back porch, and listening. I never heard it again. So I went back in the house, started washing dishes again, and I heard it again. So I went back out there. There was nothing there. I didn't hear it anymore. So this went on maybe 2 or 3 weeks later. I heard it again. This time it was in the evening. I heard it again. But I just heard it that once. So I went on about my business, and one evening my mother and my friend, we were gonna go shopping or something anyway. It was late in the evening, and I had forgotten something in the house, so I said, well, y'all two stay in here and I'm gonna run back in the house, get it, and I'll be back out. And I had been telling my mother and my friend about this noise, this hollering that I had heard. And my mom was telling me that's what it is, but you know, I had an idea, but I really didn't, I haven't seen it, so I didn't know really what it was. So I ran back in the house, and when I came back out, was getting in the car, they said, we heard that hoop out there in the woods. And I said, well, that's what I've been telling you, that I've been hearing those. And she said, that's what it is. It's a Bigfoot or Este Capko, long man, she was saying. So I went on, and we went on about 3 months maybe. I didn't hear anything all that time. And then one night, me and my husband and my daughter were standing on the back porch again, dark. We were standing there, and my husband kept saying it was a bull or a cow making those noises, that he didn't think it was anything like that. Well, that evening we was all standing back there, and we heard it. To me, it just kept carrying on for probably a minute or two, the way it was hooping. And I said, see, that's what I heard all this time. And man, they ran, and I stood there. They left me standing on a porch while they ran in the house. But I have never seen it, but I've just heard them.
About a week ago, I was in Holdenville, and we had come out of church. It was about 6:30, 6:45 approximately. And so we went to my friend's house, and there were some tools and things that I needed to put up from the past weekend. So I went to the backyard and started putting up the tools in the barn. And while I was walking towards the barn, I heard this audio, this loud yelling. It was almost like a, you could tell it was a primate. You can tell it was a loud vocalization, just a yelling, like that. And it went on for a long time, and it went on, and it died down and went like that. And it did it about 3 times at that instant. It just one after another. And so I was putting my tools up, and I locked the door, and I was walking back to the house, and I heard it again. And this time my friend had come out to the outside, and she heard it. And she said, "What in the world is that noise?" And I said, I think that's Este Capko. I think that's him yelling. And she said, "That's not a dog?" I said, "No." I said, a dog will howl or whimper and bark. I said, that's not a dog. But the vocal, I could tell, wasn't human, because I don't think a man can hold their breath that long or deliver a yell for that long. It was just a loud, long yell, almost like he was calling another one, or maybe trying to scare somebody or something. But so we just kind of brushed it off, and I just kind of accepted it. It was Este Capko out there. And so this past Saturday, we were in the backyard, and we were watching TV out there. I made a big screen for the backyard, and we was out there with the kids, and it was about 9:30, and the kids went inside, and I was breaking down the equipment, and I was starting to put things up, and I heard it again. I heard that loud yelp, that sound again, and it was about 9:30, 9:45, and it did it about 3 times again, and it was just this loud yelling sound. And my friend said, "That might be the train. That might be the train that goes through." And right about that time, it yelled again. And it seemed like a few seconds later, then the train came, and it was it was coincidence how that train just showed up. But you could hear the difference between a train and that sound. That sound was more organic, and it was more like vocals, and it was just a loud yelp, just a loud scream. And I just kind of just dismissed it as Este Capko, and he's out there, and I just kind of left it at that. And that's basically what happened in the last week or so with that. So that's really all I have right there.
I'm Vincent Dio. I'm from the Hannah community in Hannah, Oklahoma. I was asked to come down and tell some stories about the creature, or the thing that we all know as Bigfoot. There's been some sightings around here in this area. At one time, we've had other people tell us about how they were walking down the road late one night, and they could hear it in the field fall on them. And then when they hit the tree line that up here by the old community center, well, they heard it all come to the edge of the road on the tree line on the edge of the road, and wouldn't let them pass. So they kind of got scared, and that couple just hunkered down by the old Indian Community Center and stayed there all night until the next morning, until daylight came, and they went away. So, okay, we're out here on Road 12 or 4000. Okay, we're just north of the South Canadian River. When we're coming down this road 4000 one night, I come up top this hill. I seen a shadow on the left side of the road, right down just past the lower part of that branch. As I approached it, it just stood there, and as I turned on my brights, I could see like a silhouette or an image of something tall just move off into the woods real quick. As I approached up there, I stopped and got out and looked, but I couldn't see anything, but I could hear something going through the woods, but I couldn't smell anything. Usually you can smell him. In the woods across from the road where I'm at, it was cleared off at that time, but the Bigfoot will also make a knock. So he was knocking over in these woods in this tree line across from the road here. I could hear him, and I'm like, I didn't know what it really was. I never heard of that story about him knocking, but later on I found out that that's what it was. So I'm really trying to figure out what it is. Then I hear a tree limb, like out of the tree, snap, and I hear a thud way on the other side from where the tree snapped. Now, that got me really thinking, I got to get out of here. I'm really trying to get out. And that's before my other cousin got here. When he got here, I was so happy to see him. I was telling him about what was out there. He said, there ain't nothing out there. He said, just cows. I said, no, there's no cows over there. I said, they're working on the fence line. They took the fence line down and they cleared out all the woods over there. And he said, no, there's just cows over there. I said, okay. So we left it at that. So we went back to my house and returned with a tractor to pull us out. As we were tying up the tractor, chaining with the chain, and to pull me out, again we started hearing the thud. This time he heard it with me. Again, we heard a tree limb, like off of a tree, snap, and the thud of the limb landing far away. I said, see, that's what I heard. I said, something's over there. He goes, it's a cow. He goes, that's all it is, it's a cow. I said, okay, all right, it's a cow. So we hurried up and finally got my truck unstuck, and we pulled it up to the house. When we got to the house, it was 1:45 to midnight. And all that time I had a 30-pack of beer in my truck. Didn't even touch it. Didn't even want to get out there and drink it because what I heard and what was going on at that time. So when I finally settled in and we had a beer together, he drank his first beer and he said, whatever's out there, that was big. And I said, see, I told you there's something out there.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Barnett. I'm from Hannah, Oklahoma, and I'm going to be translating a story that's spoken in the Muscogee language into the English language. Hello, how are you? I'm Thomas Lowe Jr. I'm second chief to Tallahassee Wagawayi. I used to be with David Proctor when he was chief, and he passed away, so I'm only one left. I live in a country about 4 miles west
Not so good. Bố hè đây ghé đâu vậy?
I hear a lot of things where I live, even when I'm sitting on the porch.
Đi job cô. Đây có ghé đâu vậy?
Bigfoot's
didn't
always
make all your-
hollering. They
More
holler at each other.
October mine. More than one guy.
But in October, it was
About
active.
6 years ago, then again.
About 6 years ago,
Trên church like that.
where Trenton
Ở
Church
dọc
is,
walk on.
there's a creek there.
Ốc có đâu bây giờ rồi con.
There was somebody
Did
in
I
it. It was Bigfoot.
Ốc có lên. Ốc năng nó bùi trong bộ đôi.
He was in the water splashing, and I don't know what he was looking for.
Cái vậy là được.
Maybe drinking water.
Lên ốc đây có cho con.
He was hooping real loud. Tyrone, his
Em bé kia
son,
rồi.
started whooping back at him.
Em bé kia rồi.
He said, "Don't do that."
Ở chỗ cho con.
He was coming.
Cho mẹ kìa.
He was
No.
on the road too, coming toward us.
Ủa thế kìa mấy hai cái kìa. Anh đâu
I
gì
see.
cho chỗ con.
I said, "You sit there and wait on him. I'm getting in the house."
Ở gì nhỉ?
He
Cho mấy
came.
mà nè bà đôi.
I don't know where he went after that.
Nó mà cái bố hay lót rồi.
I've heard things like
Cái
that
nó nó bằng.
on top of a mountain.
Nó cái rồi rồi.
There was always something hitting. He's always hitting.
Dọc này là muốn có rồi.
Seems like he's cutting wood. And Tyrone said
Nên đi
no,
hai đâu dọc mà con. Mà
that he was making a road.
Ông garden. Ở chỗ quay rằng kì.
Not too long
Bây giờ
ago,
có cái đâu vậy.
The-
Ông lo cho lại cái rồi.
I live close to the Wiegoofke
Oh, my
ground,
God.
and their members said
Walking through there again. He's the way. Mà
we
nó
saw
nào.
some little monkeys.
Walking through there again. Sao cái rồi.
I told them there's no little monkeys.
Bigfoot. Lubusco garden. All the way scared and money nào.
There are little
got what the-
Bigfoots around. The kids,
Mà lấy cái cho yêu bần. Ở bên phải thì tôi mà.
they were running toward the back of your house.
Ông garden. Ở cái gì đó đây rồi.
I have a
This is
pond
mấy ông rồi.
where they had
I
baptized a
am.
lot of people. I went down there to look around. There was little footprints there. I guess they were drinking water. And a while
4 years ago,
went by till about 4 years ago. Our beacon was dancing, and it was really raining. Tyrone said, "Look, they're standing out in the yard." There was 4 of them. When it was lightning, you could see them in front of the house. They were tall, long people. They call them long people. There was 4 of them. They just stood there about 5 minutes. Tyrone told me to go get some apples, so I did, and Tyrone threw it down on the ground for them. They stood there. They took them. They turned around and they left.
1 week mà
1 week went
ra
by.
quét to lên rồi
We have a well out there.
ra here lại không
I was going out
cho
there
tôi
to look.
vào thì
There was rocks, real white rocks
thì
there.
giờ ra đất lên rồi ở
I
đất
was
sao
looking at them. I picked them up.
bây giờ ăn gan thì lấy xuống ngoài ăn gan
I put them up.
ta rong thì lấy để đuổi
Tyrone
Xuống
got
lên
them
mong
put
tới
up.
mà tôi
He's
đó
got them
kìa.
sitting up there.
Spraying water Arkansas there's window
Maybe in Arkansas they have a spring water. There's rocks, and I think that's where they picked them up at. I have them. I have the little rocks, and
No,
I
no, and he
have
did
them
not
sitting
go in.
there. I've
No,
always
this is
seen
awful.
things like that with
Bigfoot
Bigfoot. I hear them whooping way over there, and then on the other side they whoop at each other real loud. I was drinking coffee and throwing trash away. I went outside. It was real bright moon. I was throwing away garbage. He was in the pond in the water. I don't know what he was doing there. Maybe drinking water. Maybe looking for a big turtle. I heard him. He whooped real loud and just like filled up the whole place. And I went into the house. I was scared. And this is the end.
So now we're going to go to an expert, a lawyer, a woman who practices law and is in a courtroom all the time. And she's going to tell us how much weight an eyewitness account will hold in a court of law. People can go to prison from eyewitness accounts if they're believed.
Well, eyewitness accounts per se on any legal arena is, of course, subject to attack based on the person's previous history of honesty and reliability. So if they're a fine, upstanding citizen in the community and they see something, they're pretty much going to be believed. So does that answer your question?
Well, there you have it. Those 5 stories. People telling what they saw, what they heard, and what they smelled. Do you believe them? Now you, the jury, have to decide. Are they trustworthy? Do you believe the stories they're telling? I know in 1993, I was on tour with the American Indian Dance Theater. I was leaving Eureka, California in the middle of the night. I had to get to San Rafael by 10 o'clock that morning. So I left at 3 o'clock in the morning and I stopped to get gas just before I'm going off into the mountains, facing the heaviest fog I've ever seen in my entire life. As I'm pumping gas, I heard a sound, a yell coming out of the mountains, past the fog. It sent chills up and down my spine because it sounded exactly like what they describe a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot. The yell that he gives, the mournful, long, almost siren-sounding yell. And I heard that. I know what I heard. I can't explain it. These people can't explain what they saw either, except for what their grandparents have told them throughout the years. But do you believe them? Now it's in your hands, and that's where we'll leave it, in your hands. But we'd like to know your verdict. Do you believe them? I do. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. And I just need to say, Mado. Oh, and by the way, still look like I'm sucking my gut in?